So, the basics of the American Health Care Act, or the Better Care Reconciliation Act. So, that's what they're going to call it in Congress, is this Better Care Reconciliation Act. That's the name of it. The U.S. House passed this bill, or a version of this bill, back in May. The Senate released a discussion draft. They haven't voted on it yet, and it's gone through a couple of drafts already. They released that on June 22nd, and today they released the second version of that, just this afternoon. Here's kind of the basics of what's included in that, okay? They're repealing some of the employer taxes and removing the individual mandate and penalties. So under Obamacare, people had to have health insurance or they paid a penalty. Employers of a certain size had to offer insurance plans that complied with the law. Those sorts of penalties and requirements go away under these proposals. Or what was discussed today or introduced today says that insurance companies can sell plans that do not include these essential health benefits. In fact, are much, much skimpier, I guess, than what's currently available. Wisconsin's doing a pretty good job with its Medicaid funding, and we get a good share of federal funding here to do that. So we receive about $5 billion a year in Medicaid funding from the federal government. 1.2 million Medicaid recipients in Wisconsin. That's 1 in 5 Wisconsinites. This is how it breaks down. Most of the people are kids. So those are kids who come in through the poverty door, so low-income kids receiving Medicaid, getting basic primary acute health care through Medicaid. 35% are just low-income adults. 22% of people in Medicaid are people with disabilities and older adults. Another thing to keep in mind is that Wisconsin's Medicaid includes almost all of the optional services that are available. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. Medicaid, currently, under current Medicaid law, there's a set of mandatory services. States have to provide the mandatory services, and then there's a set of optional services. But pay attention to the optional services because those are the ones that are a significant risk. If Medicaid's not there to meet you with an optional service, that's the most shocking thing I think to people when we talk about optional and mandatory, is that prescription drugs would be optional. That families would have to figure out how to pay for that. That will put a family into bankruptcy pretty quickly. Here's that full list of optional services. Like I said, prescription drugs often shocks people. Therapies in schools for children.
So basically, instead of saying whatever the cost is of your Medicaid services for kids with disabilities, the feds will match the state and keep pace with the cost increases. They're saying basically, that's your problem. We don't really care what the cost increases are. What we're going to tell you, Wisconsin, is this is how much money you can have for kids with disabilities. And there again, you can see, you know, in 2018, 2019, not too bad. We might be able to tighten belts a little bit and maybe get by. But when you get out to 2021, 2022, that's a lot of belt tightening. That's a really big hit for the Medicaid program to try to figure out how do you live with that. An attack on people in Medicaid coming at us in 4 different ways.
Is kind of the impact in the community and the impact on specific services and programs. So I'm trying to give you some local information here. Think about this as information that you can go and talk to Mark Bourne about. You can talk to Senator Fitzgerald about. You could talk to Jim Sensenbrenner. This is really important information to think about if you leave here tonight saying, I want to do something. We really need to be talking to our elected officials. If they pass it, then it has to head back to the House. So even though right now it's in the hands, at least in Wisconsin, of Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, who are 2 U.S. senators, it's going to have to go back to Congressman Grothman, Congressman Sensenbrenner, Speaker Ryan, and all of our other people in the House. So we have some people that we can still contact about this. Okay, so here's our job. Well, he was more concerned about the procedure. He never really said he didn't like the bill. There were just some things that he wanted to get changed. So this morning he was quoted as saying pretty much that he thinks he's going to vote for it. that doesn't mean that we still can't impact him. And that, people the only people we can really call are our own senators. So I think he's our focus. But Senator Baldwin needs calls too. She needs to be able to say, I heard from this many people in my home state, and here's what they're telling me. So even though we think that she will vote against it, in part because she's concerned about the Medicaid cuts in the bill, it's important that she hears from us. These people are also important. Governor Walker is the head of the Republican Governors Association. He has extraordinary influence with other governors, and early on he was saying, I'm not sure this is such a good deal for Wisconsin. He could be somebody who could go on the record and say, yeah, I don't think my state is being treated very fairly. It would really mean something. So I think it's important to give him a call as well. You have two really important state legislators that represent this area. Mark Bourne is on the Joint Finance Committee, and Scott Fitzgerald, head of the state Senate. So living here in the Big Bend, Dodge County area, you have a lot more influence than people who live in other parts of the state.